This is the Ember Mug version 2, a battery-powered mug that keeps your coffee hot for hours on end. All right, first off, the Ember Mug I have here is on loan from my friend Brian, who received it as a Christmas gift this past Christmas. So he said, hey, do you want to use this for an unboxing video in your Thursday night live stream? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'll do that. This mug, I did not pay for it. Ember did not compensate me in any way for this. Ember did not send this to me. Ember has no say in the video. And Ember actually doesn't even know who I am. So there. But this is the Ember Mug, and it costs $99.95 or $100. The difference between version 1 and version 2 is that version 2 will run up to 80 minutes on battery life. It also has a smaller coaster for charging, a greater waterproof rating, and costs $20 more than the previous model at $100 US. So overall dimensions of the mug are 3.3 inches this way, 4.3 inches if you consider the handle, and vertically it's 4.2 inches tall. So the Ember Mug is stainless steel with a scratch-resistant coating. It has 4 individual temperature sensors built in. It features this ring that mounts to the charger coaster. This has a 14-ounce capacity. It automatically will turn on, automatically will go to bed, and it also has this smart LED function that blinks and gives you different colors and tones and whatever to let you know the condition. So this one, orange, means that it's kind of empty. Glowing red means it's charging. There is a button on the bottom of here. It does not have a lid, and it comes in 3 colors, white, black, and this gray. It also comes with a 30-day warranty from the date of purchase. One thing to keep in mind about the Ember Mug that's different than its other travel mug companion is that it does not have any real external controls. All functionality is controlled by the app. And you just got to connect it, and there it is. The app itself will tell you the temperature. It'll allow you to set temperature, and the temperature ranges from 145 degrees all the way down to 120, as well as being able to turn the master off. In addition, you can control the brightness, battery level, temperature, and you can also personalize it by changing the LED colors to any flavor of color that you want. I like it orange. So the intention of the mug is that you can keep your drink heated for up to 80 minutes when it's not on the charger. If you leave it on the charging coaster, it'll continuously heat indefinitely. And while I'm using the app for the iOS system, they do have a version available for Android, so pretty much everyone's covered with that. The Ember Mug also has the IPX7 Waterproofing designation, which means that it can be submerged up to 1 meter for half an hour without damaging any of the electronics. So you can actually wash this in the sink and be perfectly fine. But hand washing only, no machine washing. Not bad. All right, so how does this thing perform? Overall, it performed really well. We did several tests with it to see what kind of conditions we could do with it to put it in and all that kind of stuff and see how it would turn out. So of course, the most basic way to do it is you brew some coffee, put it in the mug, room temperature environment, and let's see how long the battery lasts. And in that case, the battery lasted a full 80 minutes. No problem there. Really held it at whatever temperature we wanted to set it to. So if you want to set it at 140 degrees, it performed really, really well. That was nice. But honestly, in a room temperature environment, you know, 70, 60, 70s, that's really kind of the baseline. Like it should perform well in there. So the next thing I wanted to do, well, actually, as I was talking with Brian about using this for the unboxing video, one of the things I thought about that would be really cool when I learned that it would hold the temperature at about 135 degrees was using this to sous vide a steak. And here's the idea. The idea originally was to take ghee, which is really just clarified butter, warm it up to about 135 degrees on a pan, pour it into the cup, add the seasoned steak to it, and let it do its thing for an hour. And basically I wanted to poach the steak in the ghee for an hour and then pan fry. The problem is that as I was doing that, it just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't read. It just wouldn't do anything. It just kind of petered out and died. And I really wasn't sure why. So I looked online and learned that the sensors inside this mug have difficulty reading the temperature when the liquid has fattiness to it, right? The melted butter ghee prevented the sensor from reading the temperature even though it was 135 degrees and kept shutting off, allowing the temperature to cascade down. So that was a bit of a failure there. To compensate for that, I was determined to actually get it to work. So what I did is I took those steak cuts, I put them in a bag, removed all the air, took the ghee out, cleaned up the mug, added hot water that I had boiled to 135 degrees, put the bag and the steaks inside the mug, and then that actually worked beautifully. That actually held it at 135 degrees for the full hour without a charger, and we just let it do its thing. And then we pan-fried that to finish it and served it up for a great dinner that night. So with that in mind, the problem of having the fattiness of the butter preventing the mug from reading, I was actually concerned about using milk drinks like a latte or a cappuccino in the mug. Would it work? Would that fattiness from the whole milk be enough to prevent it from working? And to me, that would be a major downfall. So I went down to Vent Coffee Roasters here in Baltimore to hang out with my friend Sarah and our old barista Sergio, who made us a nice latte for us to give a try. And that worked pretty well. So for that test, I basically had Sergio make us a latte, and I just let it sit for the entire time to see how long it would hold the temperature and if it could hold the temperature. I also used the thermal pen from ThermalWorks to actually test the actual temperature and have a comparison for it. And what we found out was that while the mug never shut off like it did with the ghee, it displayed weird behavior in that and I'm presuming that the fattiness of the milk gives resistance to the mug's ability to read the temperature. Throughout the entire time, it always said it's 145, but the temperature was actually a little bit less. So my belief is that the whole milk is enough to give it a little bit of problems reading the actual temperature. However, it still kept the mug hot and still kept the latte warm throughout the entire time. The only difference is that you're going to have a little bit of misreading between what the app says and the actual temperature of the beverage, which honestly is not really a big deal. Now finally, the last test that we did is that I wanted to wait until a really, really cold day and take this mug out and just see how it would perform. We had a little bit of snowfall, and so I went out in the morning around 9 o'clock, and I set up my table out in the woods, and the temperature was about 18 degrees, which is right around -8 Celsius, so it was pretty bitterly cold, like very, very bitter. And I had brewed some coffee, put it in there, which started out about 145 degrees. Actually, it started out at 149 degrees when I poured it into the mug, and then quickly cascaded down in that severe weather. Like the weather was really pretty hardcore. It was bitterly cold. There was a lot of crosswind, and that just made it really difficult. So in order to try to compensate for that, I thought that, well, you know what, it's the morning time. Let's have a little cigar with our coffee. So there I was, smoking cigar and drinking coffee. And you know what? I have to say the mug performed admirably, admirably. Like, we were out there for quite a while, well over half an hour, probably 40 minutes, and it was bitterly cold. And the thing is that the battery never died. The battery on my phone died. And I just couldn't take it anymore. Like, my toes were getting cold, despite me wearing like winter boots and winter socks and multiple layers. I was pretty darn cold. My fingers were freezing, my toes were freezing, and I was just like, all right, the coffee's holding some temperature. Like, for example, typically you're keeping the coffee 135, 140 degrees. It's below that. It's probably closer to, by the time I stopped, it was probably somewhere between 125 to 130 degrees, which when you consider how bitterly cold and windy it was, that's a heck of a job, especially since there's no lid and the heat is just coming out of it. So the battery's got to be pushing pretty hard. So if it had lasted the full 80 minutes at that kind of severe temperature, that would really, really be impressive. But the reality is that it lasted longer than I could take it. So I guess that's really the bottom line there in that test. So who is this for, and is it right for you? This mug is really for the person that wants to have hot coffee all the time, or any kind of beverage that's hot all the time. The really strange thing about drinking coffee from this mug is that it's always hot. So once you set the temperature, let's say you set it to 140 degrees, it holds it throughout that time, and it never wavers. When you're drinking hot beverages, you're always used to some level of cascading temperature, right? The temperature's always declining. Even in those really nice thermal mugs, they're always declining. It's always getting cooler as you go. this one never gets cooler. It stays the same. So when you're drinking coffee, or let's say like a latte, over an extended period of time, and it's always at that temperature, as a coffee drinker myself, that's a little bit freaky because you're just not used to that. You're not used to that continuous temperature experience. You're used to that sliding temperature, so it's just very different, and something maybe you just got to get used to. But it works really well. I'm really, really surprised with that. Now, the other side of it is that it costs $100, which is a lot of money for a mug. There's no way around it. I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the sous vide test is just because I thought that, you know what, if it'll do some sous videing, some craziness like that, then maybe it's worth $100. Because if you look at the other types of sous vide devices, they're kind of pricey too. That's who it's for. If you're the kind of person that wants to have your drink stay hot continuously for as long as you want, this is what you should get. Now, here's the thing. So it'll last up to 80 minutes just like this. But if you take it and put it back on its charger, like let's say you're at work at your desk, this is what you do. You just sit there on the charger and you just let it go and you drink, and then you let it do its thing. So it never fully goes out of charge. And if you decide that, hey, I'm going to go to, I don't know, the other part of the office, or really now in this era, the other part of my house, I can take it with me, and there's 80 minutes worth of battery life to keep your coffee going. Of course, the other side of it is, I don't know if it would take me 80 minutes to drink coffee. Like, that's a long time to drink coffee. I'm done probably within half an hour, but that's just a thought. So what do I think about this, the Ember Mug? Like I said earlier, it's a little bit freaky. This whole idea that I'm drinking this coffee and it's always at the same temperature, that's kind of strange to me. I kind of like, and maybe even prefer, the coffee experience that is always declining in temperature, because as the coffee temperature declines over a period of time, you're actually getting different highlights of the coffee. The coffee changes. Coffee flavors can reveal themselves. This essentially prevents that from happening. So, I don't know. Plus it's just weird. Like, I was drinking a latte the other day with it, and having a hot, milky latte always stay hot? Freaky, freaky. Now, is it a good value for $100? That's always a good question. For myself, I probably wouldn't buy it, only because it's $100, and that's a lot of money to spend on a mug. But actually, after using it for the last month or so, it's been kind of fun, and I've kind of enjoyed it. I'm a little bit jealous that my friend Brian got this as a gift, because this is kind of a cool gift to have. But really, the last thing I need is more technology lying around the shop. It's been a good time with it. I do like it overall. You know, and when you think about the technology behind it, it's not terribly expensive. I mean, we spend so much more money on things like this and lesser items. So $100 is not bad. They do have another model that is more of a travel version, that's taller, at greater capacity. It has a lid. You know, that seems to be pretty cool. And that's the one thing that I wish this thing had, was a lid, so that I could take this with me, pop the lid on it, maybe take it for a ride in the car if I want to go somewhere still drinking. You know, for $100, I think that they could have included a lid. That would have been really, I think that would have been very exciting for it. But for now, that's the Ember Mug. I hope that helps you get some insight into it. This is the version 2. If you like the idea of hot coffee or hot beverage nonstop, with no variation in temperature and no declining in temperature, then yeah, I think this is actually a really great deal to go with. And 80 minutes for the battery life, you know, that's pretty good. And also, you're not going to find that once the battery's dead, it's going to drop temperature super fast. I mean, it is a little bit, there's a little bit of insulation. There's a little bit of insulation here. And, you know, yeah, there it is. I hope that helps. Thanks for tuning in and all that kind of stuff. You know the deal. I don't need to tell you about that kind of stuff. All right, so see you next time. Peace.